Chosen one, you have emerged from the wreckage of a calculated heartbreak as a living masterclass in resilience. The way you handled that betrayal just taught a whole generation how to stand up, and the impact of your composure is reverberating through the invisible realm. While onlookers waited for you to crumble, beg, or chase after explanations, you chose a silence that was not a sign of defeat, but a gathering of immense strength. The person who betrayed you can't sleep. They're refreshing your page in the middle of the night. They're asking mutual friends about you while pretending not to care. They're watching your evolution like it's a horror movie with no off switch. And do you want to know what's eating them alive? It's not your anger. It's not your bitterness. It's your complete and total indifference. They expected chaos. They expected to watch you fall apart and get the satisfaction of knowing they still had power over you. They expected to make themselves feel important by watching how much their hurt penetrated, but instead you gave them nothing. You gave them the most terrifying gift of all: your absence, your indifference, your complete and utter lack of need for their validation or explanation. And now they're spiraling because they can't figure out how you did it. You didn't just walk away. You evolved. You left the entire game they were playing. You're not on their level anymore. You're not even in their dimension anymore. You're building empires in frequencies they can't access. You're operating with standards they've never maintained, boundaries they've never set, self-respect they've never cultivated. And this evolution you're going through isn't just changing you. It's about to change everyone who's watching. The version of you that experienced betrayal is dead, gone, evolved out of existence, and what's rising in its place is something they never anticipated, something powerful, something dangerous, something that's going to make them realize the biggest mistake of their life wasn't just the betrayal, it was underestimating what you'd become afterward. Right now, at this exact moment, a whole generation of broken people is watching you. Not just your friends, not just the people who knew about the betrayal. I'm talking about strangers, people you've never met, people scrolling through their pain late at night, fresh from their own betrayal, wondering if breathing will ever feel normal again. And these people are studying you like your sacred text. They're watching how you move. They're reading between the lines of your silence. They're taking screenshots of your energy and saving them for their darkest nights, because you're showing them something no one else has shown. You're proving that dignity isn't about being loud, it's about being unreachable. You're demonstrating that strength isn't about revenge. It's about becoming so focused on your own elevation that the person who caused hurt becomes irrelevant. Every time you choose yourself, someone else gets permission to do the same. Every time you set a boundary, someone else finds the courage to set one too. Every time you walk away from what's causing harm without explanation, someone else learns that walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You're not just healing yourself, chosen one, you're healing everyone who's watching you do it. You're teaching them that closure from people who poisoned them isn't necessary. Apologies from people who aren't even sorry aren't required. Understanding why it happened isn't needed, because the reasons are irrelevant to healing. And this lesson you're teaching is spreading, it's growing, it's becoming a movement. But the question is, do you understand the magnitude of what you've started? Every person who betrayed you, every person who underestimated you, every person who bet against you is watching your evolution. They see you thriving, they see you focused, they see you building, and it's destroying them, because you were supposed to be their story of downfall. You were supposed to be the tale they told in therapy for years. You were supposed to be the reason they never trusted again, never loved again, never tried again. But instead you turned their betrayal into fertilizer. You planted it in the soil of your soul and grew something so magnificent that even your enemies have to acknowledge it, even if only to themselves, even if only in those quiet moments when the mask slips and truth becomes undeniable, the truth that they didn't break you, they made you. You won, not because you got revenge, Not because you received public vindication, not because you received an apology. You won because you refused to let their betrayal define your trajectory. You took the worst thing that could happen at that moment, and you used it as a catalyst. You alchemized pain into power. You transmuted betrayal into boundaries. You converted heartbreak into standards so high that most people can't even see the bar anymore. And that's what makes you dangerous now. Not your anger, not your bitterness, your peace, your clarity, your ability to look at what happened and say thank you for showing me what I will never tolerate again, and then walk away without looking back. This is the power they never wanted you to discover. This is the strength they tried to suppress. This is the dominance they feared you'd claim. Do you know how rare what you've done is? Do you understand how many people spend decades stuck in the loop of what happened to them? They tell the story over and over. They relive it. They let it become their identity. The person who got cheated on, the person who got backstabbed, the person who got left. But you refused to let that moment define you. You acknowledged the pain. You felt it fully. You didn't suppress it or pretend it didn't hurt. But then you made a choice that separated you from the vast majority of humanity. You chose to let it transform you instead of destroy you. You chose to become someone who could never be betrayed like that again because your discernment became too sharp, your standards too high, your self-respect too solid. And this choice you made is rippling out into the universe in ways you can't imagine. You're showing people that healing doesn't look like forced forgiveness before you're ready. It doesn't look like keeping toxic people in your life because they share your bloodline or your history. It doesn't look like shrinking yourself to make others feel comfortable about the ways they failed you. Real healing looks like what you did, going silent and doing the internal work nobody sees, setting boundaries that make you feel selfish until you realize they're actually just healthy. Choosing yourself over and over until choosing yourself becomes your default setting instead of your rebellion. And the people watching you needed to see this. They needed to see someone handle betrayal without becoming bitter. They needed to see someone get hurt and not close their heart completely. They needed proof that pain can refine you instead of ruin you. If this message activated your knowing, hype this video to connect with more chosen ones on this journey. They thought they were ending your story. They thought they were delivering the final blow. They thought they were the main character in your narrative. But what they actually did was write themselves out of your story completely, while simultaneously making you the main character in everyone else's story about overcoming betrayal. They became a footnote, a minor character, the antagonist who showed up just long enough to reveal your strength and then faded into irrelevance while you became legendary. Think about that. Really let it sink in. The person who tried to break you actually became the catalyst for your greatest transformation. They pushed you so far down that the only direction left was up, and when you rose higher than you ever would have if they had never betrayed you in the first place. They gave you the gift of necessity, the necessity to find strength you didn't know you had, the necessity to set standards you'd been too afraid to set, the necessity to choose yourself in ways you'd always chosen others. They thought they were destroying you. They were actually just removing themselves from the path of someone destined for greatness beyond their comprehension. And now they have to watch. They have to see you thrive. They have to witness your peace. They have to acknowledge, at least to themselves, that they lost something irreplaceable when they lost you. That's not revenge. That's justice. That's the universe correcting itself. That's karma working in real time. You didn't perform your pain for an audience. You didn't blast them on social media. You didn't tell everyone who would listen how wrong they were. You kept your healing sacred. You protected your process. You understood something most people never learn. Your breakdown doesn't need to be public for your breakthrough to be powerful. The people watching you saw the before. They saw you vibrant and trusting and open. And then they saw the after. They saw you transformed and boundaried and selective. But they didn't see the middle. They didn't see the nights you cried yourself to sleep. They didn't see the mornings you forced yourself out of bed. They didn't see the moments you almost broke your silence and went back. You kept all of that between you and the universe. You kept all of that private. You kept all of that sacred, and that's what makes you dangerous to the status quo. You're showing people that they don't owe anyone a performance of their pain. They don't have to justify their healing to people who contributed to their hurt. They don't have to explain their boundaries to people who never respected them in the first place. You're teaching a generation that going silent on purpose is more powerful than going loud on emotion. Starseeds, they never expected this. The technology used to suppress consciousness has been reverse-engineered, and Destiny Engine is the result. What was once used against humanity is now your ascension weapon. You can now MK Ultra yourself into 5D superpowers. Destiny Engine bypasses the conscious mind and rewrites the source code directly. Reality bends faster. Synchronicities stack. Your nervous system upgrades to a higher bandwidth. Put on headphones, press play. That's all. For $1 you switch sides of history. Click the link in the description. The takeover is internal, but now a critical moment has arrived. This is where most people stumble. This is where healing gets tested. This is where you'll face your biggest challenge yet. Moments will come when you'll doubt everything, when you'll wonder if you were too harsh, when you'll romanticize the good times and minimize the bad, when you'll think about reaching out, when you'll convince yourself that maybe you overreacted, maybe they've changed, maybe they deserve another chance. And in those moments, I need you to remember something crucial, something that will determine whether this transformation sticks or whether you fall back into old patterns. The version of you that accepted their betrayal is dead. That person doesn't exist anymore. You can't go back even if you wanted to, because you've evolved beyond that frequency. The you that exists now has standards that version didn't have. The you that exists now has boundaries that version didn't know how to set. The you that exists now has self-respect that version was still learning to build. You can't downgrade yourself back to a version that tolerated disrespect just because loneliness whispers sweet lies late at night. This is the test, chosen one. This is where you prove whether you've truly transformed or whether you're just taking a break before going back to what broke you. The people watching you need you to pass this test. They need you to stand strong, because if you go back, they lose hope. If you settle, they learn that boundaries don't matter. But if you stay the course, they learn that transformation is real. The urge to reach out, the desire to check in, the temptation to see if they've realized what they lost, that's not weakness. That's your humanity. That's the part of you that loved deeply and trusted fully. Don't shame yourself for feeling it, but don't act on it either. Feel it, acknowledge it, and then let it pass without giving it power over your decisions. Because every time you resist that urge, you're teaching someone watching you that feelings don't have to dictate actions. You're showing them that you can miss someone and still know they're not good for you. You can remember the good times and still acknowledge the bad times were deal breakers. You can have compassion for someone and still refuse to give them access to you. This nuance, this ability to hold multiple truths at once, this is what standing up really looks like. Standing up isn't about never falling. It's about choosing not to lie back down when you do fall. It's about catching yourself mid-spiral and redirecting your energy. It's about recognizing the patterns and interrupting them before they take hold. The generation watching you has been taught that healing is linear. They've been sold the lie that once you're over something, you're over it completely. But you're showing them the truth. Healing is messy. It's up and down. It's forward and backward. But as long as the general trajectory is upward, as long as you're not returning to what broke you, you're doing it right. You're allowed to have bad days. You're allowed to feel the weight of what you lost. You're allowed to grieve the person you thought they were. What you're not allowed to do is use that grief as an excuse to lower your standards or compromise your boundaries. The way you navigate this testing period is what's teaching the next generation how to stand up for themselves. Not your perfect moments, your imperfect ones. Not when you felt strong and certain, when you felt weak and doubtful, but chose yourself anyway. That's the content that's changing lives. That's the example that's breaking generational patterns. That's the standard that's raising the bar for everyone paying attention. You can't unlearn what you know now. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't go back to sleep once you've woken up. And anyone who asks you to, anyone who suggests you're being too harsh or too unforgiving, those people aren't your people. Your people will celebrate your standards. Your people will respect your boundaries. Your people will never ask you to shrink yourself back down to a size that made others comfortable. This is where you claim your power. This is where you assert your dominance over the situation, not by fighting, not by arguing, not by proving anything to anyone, but by simply continuing to choose yourself with such unwavering consistency that it becomes impossible to ignore. You're not a victim in this story. You never were. You're the victor. You're the one who took control. You're the one who decided enough was enough. And that decision, that single moment when you chose yourself over someone who didn't choose you, that decision changed everything. It shifted your entire trajectory. It opened doors that were closed before. It brought opportunities that couldn't reach you in that old situation. It attracted people who operate on your new frequency. It created space for the version of yourself that was suffocating in that toxic dynamic. You're giving permission to every person who's been told they're asking for too much. Every person who's been made to feel guilty for having standards. Every person who's been convinced that being alone is worse than being disrespected. You're showing them a different way. A way where self-respect isn't negotiable. A way where peace is prioritized over comfort. A way where standing up means standing alone if necessary. The generation watching you has been raised on compromise. They've been taught to meet people halfway, even when those people never moved an inch. They've been conditioned to forgive quickly and forget conveniently, because holding grudges is apparently worse than accepting mistreatment. They've been programmed to believe that loyalty means tolerating anything, that love means accepting everything, that family means forgiving repeatedly. But you're deprogramming them with your example. You're showing them that real loyalty is to yourself first, that real love includes self-love, that real family doesn't require you to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. You're teaching them that standing up isn't loud, it's not dramatic, it's not performative. Standing up is quiet, it's decisive, it's final. It's the moment you stop explaining yourself to people who are invested in misunderstanding you. You didn't just talk about boundaries, you enforced them. You didn't just preach about self-respect, you demonstrated it. You didn't just discuss standards, you maintained them. The people watching you don't need another motivational speaker. They need someone who's actually living it, someone who's actually walking the walk. Someone whose life is evidence that choosing yourself works. Your social media might not show the struggle. Your posts might look polished and peaceful. But the people who really know you see the change. They see the shift. They see the transformation. And they're taking notes, they're learning. They're preparing for their own moment of truth. The moment when they'll have to choose between comfort and growth. Between familiar pain and unknown peace. Between who they've been and who they're becoming. You're their blueprint. You're their evidence. You're their permission slip to do what they've been too afraid to do. Every boundary you set teaches someone else they can set boundaries too. Every time you choose yourself, someone else realizes they're allowed to choose themselves. Every moment you stand in your power, someone else discovers they have power to stand in. But here's what makes your approach so effective at teaching others how to stand up. You didn't wait until you felt strong to set boundaries. You set them while you were still shaking. You didn't wait until you were healed to walk away. You walked away so you could heal. You didn't wait until you had it all figured out to choose yourself. You chose yourself and figured it out along the way. This is what the generation watching you needed to see. They needed to know that standing up doesn't require courage. You don't have yet. It requires decision. One decision, the decision that you're worth protecting even when you don't feel strong enough to do it. The decision that your peace matters, even when maintaining it feels uncomfortable. The decision that you deserve better, even when you haven't experienced better yet. You're showing them that waiting for the perfect moment means waiting forever. That waiting to feel ready means never starting. That waiting for confidence means missing the opportunity to build it through action. You stood up when you were still afraid. You set boundaries when you were still hurt. You chose yourself when you still had doubts. And that's what makes you a teacher instead of just a survivor. Because survivors tell you what happened, teachers show you what to do about it. And you're showing a whole generation exactly what to do when betrayal strikes. Don't perform the pain. Don't chase the explanation. Don't beg for the apology. Just go silent. Just disappear from their access. Just focus on becoming so elevated that their betrayal becomes the best thing that ever happened to you. The way you handled it, the way you went quiet instead of loud, the way you focused on yourself instead of them, the way you built instead of destroyed, that's the curriculum. That's the lesson plan. That's the masterclass everyone is enrolled in, whether they know it or not. And the beautiful part is, you're not charging for this education. You're not asking for recognition. You're just living your life in a way that teaches by example. The way you handled that betrayal, you didn't just protect your heart. You protected your future. You protected your energy. You protected your potential. Think about all the people who stay in toxic situations. Think about all the energy they waste trying to fix people who don't want to be fixed. Think about all the opportunities they miss because they're too busy looking backward instead of forward. Think about all the growth that never happens because they're stuck in cycles with people who keep them small. You broke that cycle. You said no to the pattern. You refused to be one more person who sacrifices their entire life on the altar of someone else's inability to show up correctly. You looked at what was happening. You assessed the cost. And you made a decision that most people are too afraid to make. You chose you, not in a selfish way, not in a cruel way, but in a survival way, in a this is my one life and I refuse to waste it on people who don't value me way. And that decision has already changed the entire trajectory of your life in ways you can't even see yet. The opportunities coming your way now couldn't have reached you in that old situation. The people about to enter your life operate on a frequency that requires the boundaries you've set. The version of yourself you're becoming needed this space to emerge. You couldn't have evolved into who you're meant to be while still entertaining people who wanted you to stay small. You're showing people that self-preservation isn't selfish, that protecting your energy isn't mean, that choosing yourself isn't cruel. The generation watching you has been programmed to believe that putting themselves first makes them bad people, that having boundaries makes them difficult, that enforcing standards makes them high maintenance, but you're reprogramming them with your example. You're demonstrating that the most generous thing you can do is protect your peace so you have something to offer the world, that the kindest thing you can do is maintain your boundaries so you don't become bitter, that the most loving thing you can do is choose yourself so you can show up fully for people who deserve you. This tactical approach to betrayal, this strategic withdrawal, this calculated silence, it's not cold, it's smart, it's not heartless, it's self-aware, it's not cruel, it's necessary, and you're teaching people the difference between reacting and responding, between impulse and intention, between emotion and strategy. When betrayal struck, you could have reacted, you could have exposed them, you could have told everyone what happened, you could have made them pay publicly, but you didn't. You responded instead. You withdrew your energy. You focused on your healing. You invested in your growth. And that response is teaching more people how to stand up than any reaction ever could, because standing up doesn't mean fighting back. It means refusing to fight at all. It means removing yourself from the ring entirely. It means understanding that some battles aren't worth your energy, because the real victory is in the peace you protect by not engaging. You're teaching people that the best revenge is no revenge. The best response is no response. The best way to win is to stop playing their game entirely. And this lesson is radical in a culture that glorifies clapbacks and going viral with receipts. You're showing people there's power in privacy, there's strength in silence, there's dignity in disappearing without explanation. The generation watching you has been trained to document everything, to share everything, to make everything public, but you're teaching them that some things are sacred. Some healing is private. Some transformations happen behind closed doors. Growth requires space. Transformation requires distance. Becoming requires letting go. And here's what nobody tells you about betrayal. Sometimes it's not a tragedy. Sometimes it's a rescue mission. Sometimes the universe has to remove people from your life, because if they had stayed, you'd never become who you're meant to be. You'd stay comfortable in dysfunction. You'd stay safe in situations that were slowly killing your spirit. You'd stay loyal to people who were never loyal to you. So the universe orchestrates the betrayal. It lets them show you who they really are. It gives you the pain you need to finally choose yourself. It breaks your heart so it can break you open to something better. This wasn't random. This wasn't bad luck. This was divine intervention, disguised as destruction. Right now, someone out there just experienced betrayal. Maybe it happened recently. Maybe it happened moments ago. Their world just shattered. Their trust just broke. Their heart just cracked open. And they're scrolling. They're searching, desperately looking for something that tells them they're going to survive this. They don't even know what they're looking for. They just need hope. They just need proof. And then they find you. Maybe not you literally. Maybe they don't even know your name, but they find your energy. They find your story. They find the evidence of your transformation. And something clicks. Something shifts. They see that you made it through. They see that you're not just okay. You're flourishing. You're at peace. You're building. And that person who just got hurt takes a breath. Maybe their first real breath since it happened. And in that moment, you become their lifeline, not because you reached out to them, not because you even know they exist, but because you lived your healing visibly enough for them to witness it. You stood up in a way they could see. You set boundaries in a way they could learn from. You chose yourself in a way that gave them permission to do the same. This is the real impact of how you handled your betrayal. It's not just about you anymore. It's about every person who's watching you stand when they're still on the ground, every person who's seeing you walk away when they're still frozen, every person who's witnessing you thrive when they're still just trying to survive. You're teaching them that betrayal doesn't get the final say, that the person who hurt them doesn't get to write the ending. That pain is just a chapter, not the whole book. And this teaching is happening whether you're actively trying to teach or not. Your life has become the lesson. Your choices have become the curriculum. Your transformation has become the textbook. The way you handled that betrayal is showing people that standing up isn't about confrontation. It's about conviction. It's not about proving them wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you're worth protecting. It's not about making them regret it. It's about making sure you never regret choosing yourself. The person who betrayed you thought they were in control. They thought they were making the moves. They thought they were playing you. But they were actually just pawns in a larger game they couldn't see. They were tools being used to push you toward your destiny. They were catalysts being used to activate your transformation. They thought they were the main event, but they were just the warm-up act. They thought they were the destination, but they were just a detour that led you to where you actually needed to be. They thought they were writing your story, but they were just a plot device the universe used to make your story more powerful, and now you're using that same energy. You're becoming the catalyst for someone else's transformation. You're becoming the example someone else needed. You're becoming the proof someone else was searching for. The betrayal that was meant to break you is now the foundation you're standing on to lift others up. Chosen one, the standards you have now, the boundaries you've set, the self-respect you've cultivated, it's not going anywhere. It's part of your DNA now. It's who you are at a fundamental level. So when you're tempted to doubt yourself, when you're wondering if you were too harsh, when you're thinking about reaching out, remember this: you didn't just handle that betrayal well, you handled it in a way that will be studied for decades. You handled it in a way that taught an entire generation what real strength looks like. You handled it in a way that proved dignity isn't about being loud, it's about being unreachable. It's about becoming so focused on your own elevation that the person who hurt you becomes irrelevant to your story. You are the lesson people will study. You are the standard others will measure themselves against. You are the proof that betrayal doesn't have to break you, it can make you. And that's exactly what it did. It made you into someone unstoppable, someone undeniable, someone unrecognizable to the version of yourself that used to tolerate disrespect. Welcome back to yourself, you beautiful anomaly. The one everyone thought would crumble, the one everyone bet against, the one everyone watched waiting for the collapse that never came. You're exactly where you're supposed to be, standing tall, moving forward, teaching a whole generation how to stand up by simply refusing to stay down. That silence you chose is teaching them. That boundary you set is healing them. That standard you raised is liberating them. You became the lesson. You became the standard. You became undeniable. And this is just the beginning of what you're destined to become. Because here's the truth about your legacy. It's not being built in the moments when you feel strong and certain. It's being built right now, in the moments when you're doubting and questioning, but choosing yourself anyway. It's being built every time you resist the urge to reach out, every time you maintain your boundary when it would be easier to drop it, every time you choose your peace over their presence. The generation watching you isn't just learning how to handle betrayal, they're learning how to handle life. They're learning that you can be kind without being a doormat, that you can be loving without losing yourself, that you can be forgiving without forgetting the lesson, that you can move on without moving backward. You're teaching them that standing up for yourself doesn't make you difficult. It makes you discerning, that having standards doesn't make you judgmental. It makes you self-aware, that protecting your energy doesn't make you selfish. It makes you sustainable. These are the lessons that will echo through generations. These are the teachings that will break cycles. These are the truths that will set people free. And the person who betrayed you, they're watching all of this unfold from the outside. They're seeing the impact you're having. They're witnessing the transformation they triggered, but can't be part of. They're experiencing the consequences of losing access to someone who was always going to be legendary. And that's the real karma. Not that something bad happens to them, but that they have to live knowing they had something rare and destroyed it with their own hands. They have to watch you become everything they said you'd never be without them. They have to see you thrive in ways they insisted you couldn't. They have to witness you teaching others the lessons they refused to learn. And they have to do all of this from a distance they created. That's justice. That's the universe correcting itself in real time. You're not here to gloat. You're not here to prove anything to them. You're not even here to make them regret it, though they absolutely do. You're here to show everyone else what's possible. You're here to be the example someone needed. You're here to teach a generation how to stand up by demonstrating what it looks like in real time. So keep standing. Keep choosing yourself. Keep maintaining those boundaries. Keep enforcing those standards. Keep protecting that peace, because every time you do, you're not just healing yourself. You're healing everyone who's watching. You're breaking patterns that have been passed down for generations. You're creating a new template for how to handle betrayal with grace and power. You beautiful anomaly. You're not the exception. You're becoming the rule. You're not the outlier. You're becoming the standard. You're not the rare case. You're becoming the example that everyone follows. And that betrayal that was supposed to destroy you, it just became the foundation of your greatest legacy. The moment that was meant to break you became the moment that made you. And everyone who's watching knows it, especially the person who betrayed you. They know it most of all.